The year was 2479, and Earth had finally joined the Galactic Concord, a group of hundreds of alien civilizations spread across the stars. Humanity was still the youngest member, still learning, still being judged. The aliens called them the Dreamers, because no other species dared to build ships that could cross the edge of known space just to see what was beyond. Commander. Elias Grant had stopped dreaming a long time ago. He had seen too many wars, too many promises broken. Now he served on Erebus Station, a lonely outpost orbiting a fading star on the edge of the Orion Reach. His duty was simple: watch for signals, record what passed by, and stay out of trouble. It was quiet work, peaceful even. Elias liked it that way. The hum of the station's engines was a comfort, like an old friend's voice. That peace ended the moment she appeared. No ship was detected. No transmission. 1 second the airlock was empty. The next, a woman stepped through it as if she had always been there. She was human, or looked like one. Her hair was short, her uniform dark gray and marked with no symbol he recognized. Her eyes were calm, too calm, as if she already knew how everything would unfold. The crew froze. The airlock alarm blared once and stopped. Elias stood slowly, his hand hovering over the control console. "Who are you?" he demanded. The woman looked at him, and for a heartbeat Elias thought she might cry. Instead, she smiled sadly. "I'm sorry, Elias," she said softly. "You weren't supposed to still be here." A cold chill ran through the room. She knew his name. No one had spoken it. Elias ordered his second officer, Lieutenant Harris, to scan for ships or life signs, but the systems returned nothing. It was as if the woman had materialized from thin air. "Detain her," Elias said, "until we know who she is." 2 guards stepped forward, but she didn't resist. She held out her hands calmly. "It's already happened," she said. "You sent me back," Elias frowned. "Back from where?" She met his gaze. "From 400 years in the future." The room fell silent. Even the hum of the engine seemed to fade. She told them her name was Dr. Mara Ilan, a scientist from a timeline where humanity no longer existed. Her voice was steady, but her words carried a quiet grief. "In my time," she said, "Earth is gone. The colonies are silent. The stars have moved on without us." No one wanted to believe her. But when she mentioned events from history that hadn't yet happened, ships not yet built, treaties not yet signed, Elias felt the weight of truth pressing down. He studied her carefully. "Why are you here?" Mara hesitated, then said, "To stop you." "Stop me?" Elias asked, confused. "From what?" Her eyes darkened. "From doing what you're about to do, something that will end humanity." Before he could reply, the lights flickered. The station's AI reported a sudden spike in gravitational distortion near the dying star. Readings went off the scale. It wasn't a solar flare. It was something else, something bending space itself. Elias looked at Mara. "Did you cause that?" She shook her head. "No, that's why I'm here. It begins today." The crew scrambled as alarms echoed through the corridors. Elias ordered all hands to battle stations, though they weren't equipped for battle. The view outside the main window twisted and shimmered like ripples in water. Through the distortion, a shadow moved. "Something massive," Mara whispered. "It's the anomaly. It's trying to correct the paradox." Elias turned to her sharply. "Speak clearly." "What paradox?" She met his eyes, her voice calm but sad. "Me, I don't belong here. I'm the paradox." She explained that she was caught in a time fracture. Her appearance in this era shouldn't exist. It created instability in space-time itself. But she had no choice. "If I didn't come," she said, "you would activate something called the Quantum Relay Protocol. It's the invention that destroys us all." Elias tried to remember the term, but he had never heard of it. "You're telling me I'm going to invent something that kills humanity?" "Not alone," she said. "But you give the order. You approve the project. The first test tears a hole through reality." Elias wanted to call her insane, wanted to throw her in a cell and forget this ever happened. But the readings on his console told a different story. The gravity waves, the strange signals, the way time seemed to slow around her. Then, the station shook. The crew fell to the floor as the star outside flared bright white, almost blinding. Systems screamed warnings. "We're losing orbit," shouted Harris. Mara gripped a railing, her expression unreadable. "It's beginning," she whispered. "The loop is forming." Elias dragged himself to the control chair and tried to stabilize the station. The engines responded, but sluggishly, as if space itself was resisting. He looked at Mara again. "If you knew this would happen, why come here?" "Because you have to see it," she said. "You have to understand what your choice means." Elias's anger flared. "You expect me to trust you? You appear out of nowhere, start talking about the end of humanity, and because you trusted me once before." She interrupted quietly. "That's why I came." Her words stopped him. "How do you know me?" he asked slowly. Mara smiled faintly. "Because you were there, Elias. You sent me through the time fracture. You told me this was the only way to save us." The alarms grew louder. A deep vibration filled the station. The anomaly outside pulsed like a heartbeat. Elias didn't know what to believe anymore. The woman claimed to be from a dead future. The evidence said she might be right. And now the universe itself seemed to be reacting to her presence. He stepped closer to her. "If what you're saying is true, then how does it end?" Mara looked up at him, her expression soft, almost kind. "It ends," she said, "when you decide it does." The lights flickered once more. Then everything went dark. When the lights returned, Erebus Station was no longer calm. The emergency systems had switched to backup power, and the red glow of warning lights painted every corridor. The hum of the engines had changed. Deeper, slower, almost like a heartbeat echoing through the walls. Commander Elias Grant stood in the control room, staring at the dark window that faced the dying star. The distortion outside had grown. It looked like a whirlpool of light and shadow spinning in slow motion. Dr. Mara Elan stood beside him, her hands clasped behind her back, her face calm as always. She didn't look afraid. If anything, she looked sad. Elias had seen soldiers face death with courage before, but never like this. There was something in her eyes, something that made him believe she truly knew what was coming. "Explain it again," Elias said, turning toward her. "What is that thing out there?" "It's a temporal echo," Mara said quietly. "A wound in time. It's growing because I'm here." Elias frowned. "Because you're here?" She nodded. "My existence in this time breaks the rules of the universe. The paradox creates energy. Time itself trying to fix what's wrong." The ship's AI, named Aura, interrupted with a calm voice. "Commander, gravitational readings are increasing. At this rate, structural integrity will fail in 4 hours." Elias cursed softly. 4 hours until the station would tear apart. He turned back to Mara. "If this is your fault, then fix it." "I can't," she said softly. "Not without your help." As the station's crew worked to stabilize systems, Elias took Mara to the observation deck. It was one of the few quiet places left, a wide window overlooking the swirling storm outside. Mara spoke slowly, carefully choosing her words. "In my timeline, the human race discovered something called quantum time relays. They allowed instant communication and transport through time and space, but we didn't understand what it cost. Every use fractured reality a little more. Until one day everything broke," she paused. "We called it the silence era, because after that, there was nothing left to hear." Elias crossed his arms. "And you're saying I'm the one who starts it?" "You give the approval for the first test," she replied. "It happens 30 years from now, on a research station orbiting Neptune. That test opens a small rift, just like the one we're seeing now." Elias shook his head. "That's impossible. I'm not even a scientist, but you become one," she said. "After you retire from service, you join the Council of Research. You're the one who argues that time travel will make humanity equal to the ancient races. You believe it will prove that humans belong among the stars." Elias didn't answer. The truth hurt more than he expected. He could imagine himself doing that, pushing humanity forward, trying to make them stand tall among alien empires that looked down on them. Mara's tone softened. "You did it for the right reasons, but it led to the wrong end." Hours passed. The anomaly outside grew larger, pulling fragments of space debris into its glowing core. The dying star flickered as if gasping for life. Then a new alarm sounded. The comms officer shouted, "Commander! Multiple warp signatures detected." Elias rushed to the control room. The main display showed a fleet of ships appearing near the anomaly. But they weren't human. Their design was sharp, silver, and organic-looking, like living metal. The AI announced, "Identification confirmed. Foreign Dominion vessels." The name made every human on the station freeze. The Varan were one of the oldest and most feared alien races in the galaxy. Long ago, they had tried to control time itself. The Galactic Conquered stopped them after centuries of war, but only barely, and now the Varan were here. A transmission came through. The screen filled with the face of a tall, silver-skinned alien with eyes like black glass. His voice was smooth and cold. "Human Station Erebus, you possess something that belongs to us," returned the woman. Elias stared at the screen. "What woman?" he asked, though he already knew. "The one who should not exist," the alien said. "She is our creation. She has escaped her purpose. Return her or be erased." The transmission ended. Mara stepped forward. "They're telling the truth," she said quietly. "They created me." The words hit Elias like a punch. "You said you were human." "I was," she said. "Once. They took my mind from a human volunteer centuries ago, maybe even from your time. They used it to build a synthetic consciousness that could travel through timelines. I was meant to be a weapon." Elias could hardly believe what he was hearing. "A weapon for what?" "To erase you," she said simply. "To make sure humanity never existed." The silence that followed was heavy. Even the background hum of the station seemed to fade away. Elias felt a strange calm come over him. "So what are you doing here, Mara? Why come back?" She looked up at him with quiet determination. "Because something inside me, the human part, didn't want that future. I broke free of their control. I came back to warn you before it's too late." Outside, the Varan ships began to charge their weapons. The anomaly pulsed brighter, reacting to their presence. The AI spoke again. "Incoming energy surge. Estimated time to impact 5 minutes." Elias looked around the room. His crew waited for orders, fear clear on their faces. He pointed to the defense console. "Prepare shields and ready all systems. We hold this station." Lieutenant Harris hesitated. "Sir, they outgun us by 1,000 to 1. Elias gave a small, grim smile. "Then we'll make it an interesting 1,000. The first Varan blast hit the shields, shaking the entire station. Lights flickered and sparks flew from the control panels. The crew scrambled to keep systems running. Through it all, Mara stood near the window watching the anomaly. Her expression was distant, almost peaceful. Elias approached her between attacks. "If they made you, they'll keep coming until they get you. We can't win like this." "I know," she said softly. "That's why we have to finish what they started. On our terms." She pointed to the energy readings. "If we connect the station's core reactor to the anomaly, we can collapse it. It will destroy the rift and me." Elias frowned. "And us?" "Maybe," she admitted. "But if the rift expands, it will swallow half the sector. Billions could die." Elias stared at her. He could see the truth in her eyes. She was willing to sacrifice herself, maybe even them, to save others. That was the most human thing she could have done. "Show me how to do it," he said. Mara hesitated. "If you help me, you'll remember this. And when you reach the future, you'll know what happens next. It might change who you become." He smiled faintly. "Maybe that's the point." They worked quickly. Mara connected energy lines from the reactor to the anomaly stabilization module. Elias rerouted the control codes through the AI. The hum of the reactor deepened, rising like thunder through the floor. Outside, the Varan ships continued to fire. The shields glowed white-hot. Finally, Mara turned to him. "It's ready. Once I start it, the timeline will reset. You won't remember everything, just fragments." Elias nodded. "Then what happens to you?" She gave a small smile. "I disappear. Or maybe I return to the moment before all this began. I don't know." The deck shook violently. "Sir!" Harris shouted. "Shields down to 10%. Elias reached for the control switch. "Do it, Mara." She placed her hand on the console. A pulse of blue light spread across the room. The air felt heavy, charged with strange energy. The anomaly outside began to twist inward, pulling light and debris into itself. The Varan ships tried to retreat, but it was too late. One by one, they were drawn into the swirling vortex. Mara turned to Elias one last time. Her eyes were bright, reflecting the collapsing light outside. "I told you," she said softly. "You always choose the hard way. That's why we survive." And then the world dissolved into white. When Elias opened his eyes, he was alone in the control room. The alarms were silent. The dying star outside burned peacefully again. The anomaly was gone. There was no sign of the Varan fleet. No sign of Mara. Only a faint trace of static danced across the main console. As he watched, letters began to form, a short message. "You haven't changed, Elias, that's good. Remember the ending." He stared at the words until they faded away. Then slowly he whispered, "She walked into my room like she already knew the ending." And now he finally understood why. When Commander Elias Grant woke up, he wasn't sure if he was still alive. The station was quiet, too quiet. The lights were soft white again, and the deep hum of the engines had returned to normal. For a long moment he just sat there, breathing. His head hurt, but his body was fine. There were no alarms, no shaking walls, no blinding lights. It felt like the nightmare was over, but it also felt like something was missing. He stood slowly and looked around. The control room was empty. The console screens were blank except for one. On it, a small line of static flickered and faded away. He couldn't remember what had happened right before this moment. All he could remember was her. The woman who had walked into his room like she already knew the ending. The woman who said she came from the future to stop humanity from destroying itself. Mara Ilan. Her name echoed in his thoughts, but the memories came like smoke, fading every time he tried to hold them. Outside, the dying star still burned, quiet and steady. The Varan ships were gone. The strange temporal storm that had threatened to tear space apart was gone too. It was as if nothing had ever happened. The ship's AI aura came online. "Good morning, Commander Grant," it said calmly. "All systems stable. Communication channels open. Would you like to resume patrol schedule?" Elias frowned. "Aura. What happened here?" There was a short pause. No irregular events recorded in the past 24 hours. He felt a chill. "What about the woman?" "The intruder?" Another pause. "No record of any visitors aboard the station, Commander." Elias rubbed his temples. Maybe he had dreamed it. Maybe the stress and isolation had finally gotten to him. But deep down he knew that wasn't true. Because when he looked at the stars, he felt it. The same strange pull in his chest. The same sense of déjà vu that told him time wasn't as simple as it looked. Over the next few days, Erebus Station went back to its normal routine. The crew repaired minor damage, recalibrated the sensors, and sent a status report back to the Concord. Everything looked normal, but Elias couldn't let it go. He began to check the logs, searching for any sign of what had happened. Power surges, sensor anomalies, missing data. That's when he found it. One fragment of corrupted code in the main AI core. It was small, almost invisible. When he opened it, a short message appeared in glowing text. "You did it. The rift is closed. Humanity is safe. Am I?" Elias stared at the words for a long time. The message had no timestamp, no origin, and no signature other than those two letters. He didn't know whether to feel relieved or haunted. A week later, the Galactic Concord sent a message, a high-priority alert. A new research station near Neptune, Relay Station Theta, had reported strange quantum readings, the same readings Mara had described. Elias read the report 3 times. The words blurred together, but one sentence stood out. "Initial testing of the quantum relay protocol will begin within the month." The same project she had warned him about. Elias felt a slow dread building in his chest. It was happening again, exactly as she said. He could stay silent, pretend he didn't know. Or he could act. He opened a secure channel to Earth Council headquarters. His authorization codes were still active. "Commander Grant, you're supposed to be on deep patrol," said the official on the screen. "Why the sudden contact?" Elias leaned forward. "You have to stop the quantum relay tests. Shut the project down immediately." The official frowned. "Commander, that technology could change everything. Faster than light communication through time." "It will destroy everything," Elias said firmly. "You don't understand what you're playing with. On what evidence?" He hesitated. He couldn't explain it without sounding insane. "Just trust me," he said finally. The official shook his head. "Without proof, we can't stop it." The screen went dark. That night, Elias couldn't sleep. He sat alone in the observation deck watching the dying star flicker. His reflection stared back at him, older and more tired than he remembered. He whispered to himself, "You said it ends when I decide it does." But what decision could he make? He was just one man on a forgotten station at the edge of the galaxy. As he sat there, A faint blue glow appeared in the center of the room. He stood quickly, reaching for his sidearm, but stopped when he saw her. Mara Elin. She stood there, just as she had before, calm, mysterious, her eyes shining faintly, as if filled with starlight. Elias's breath caught in his throat.
You how?
You were gone. You said you'd disappear. I did, she said gently. But part of me was saved in the system. A fragment. A memory. You're a copy? An echo, she corrected. The real me is gone. But I left this piece behind to make sure you remembered. Elias stepped closer. You said the rift was closed. It was, she said. But the timeline is fragile. It can shift again if the same choice is made. That's why I came back, Miwa, to remind you of what's at stake. He looked at her, torn between awe and disbelief. You want me to stop the relay project? Yes, she said. If they start it again, everything we fought for will vanish. The Varin will rise. Humanity will fall. You're the only one who can stop it. Elias laughed bitterly. I already tried. They won't listen to me. Then make them, Mara said firmly. You're human, Elias. You don't give up. That's what makes us different. For the first time, her voice cracked with emotion. You have to try, even if they forget. Even if you fail. You have to keep fighting, because that's what saves us every time. The next morning, Elias sent a full report to the council. Not just warnings, but the truth. He described the time fracture, the Varin fleet, and Mara's sacrifice. He knew they would call it madness. He knew they might remove him from command, but he didn't care. He sent it anyway. Then he opened the external sensors again and stared at the dying star. For a brief second, he thought he saw a shimmer. A faint outline of a woman standing in the light, watching him. He smiled sadly. You always knew the ending, didn't you? He whispered. 3 weeks later, the quantum relay project was quietly canceled. The council gave no reason. The scientists involved vanished from public records. Some said it was due to unexplained data corruption. Elias suspected it wasn't corruption at all. It was her. Maybe the echo of Mara Ilan had found its way into the system, erasing every piece of research, protecting humanity from itself. No one would ever know the truth. Years passed. Erebus Station was decommissioned and Elias returned to Earth. He never told anyone the full story. But sometimes late at night he would dream of her, standing at the edge of a dying star, smiling like she already knew what he would do next. One day, decades later when Elias was an old man, he received a message on an old terminal. It was encrypted with a code no one used anymore. He opened it. The message was short. It worked. Humanity survives. Thank you, Elias. M.I. He stared at it for a long time, his hands trembling. Then he leaned back, looking out at the night sky beyond his window, filled with stars, alive and bright. He whispered softly, You walked into my room like you already knew the ending. And somewhere, across time itself, a voice answered. Not with words, but with light epilogue centuries later. Historians studying early space records found a strange note embedded deep in the Concord archives. It had no date, no author, only a single sentence. Humanity endures because one man believed a woman who wasn't supposed to exist. No one knew who wrote it. But some said it came from an old AI that once served on a forgotten station orbiting a dying star, a station called Erebus. And somewhere in the digital silence, a familiar voice whispered again, The ending was never mine to know. It was yours to choose.